In the cosy village of St. Mary Mead, a dazzling sapphire necklace vanishes from a locked case at a grand manor party, leaving the police stumped. But Miss Jane Marple, a kind old lady with a sharp mind, has a secret weapon. Her knack for spotting lies in everyday village life, as suspects like the debt-ridden Mr. Sinclair and jewel-hungry Lady Harrington slip up with nervous glances and shady parcels. Miss Marple sets a clever trap. Will her quiet smile and keen eyes unravel the theft? Before the thieves escape, dive into a mystery where small clues lead to big truths. Chapter 1. The Quiet Village of St. Mary. Meadin, the little village of St. Mary Mead, where houses leaned close like old friends whispering secrets. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour. Her knitting needles clicked softly, shaping a pale pink shawl that draped over her lap like a warm hug. The room smelled of lavender and old books, with sunlight slipping through lace curtains to dance on the worn rug. Outside, the village hummed with its usual chatter, neighbours swapping stories over garden fences, the milkman's cart rattling down the lane, and children laughing as they chased a stray dog. But today, the talk was sharper, buzzing with a juicy bit of news. A theft at Colonel Bantry's grand manor. A big house on the hill that everyone admired. A sapphire necklace, a treasure passed down through the Colonel's family, had vanished during a fancy dinner party. The police were stumped, scratching their heads like schoolboys stuck on a math problem. Miss Marple, though, felt a spark of curiosity. Her sharp eyes, bright despite her grey hair and wrinkled hands, flicked toward the window. She had a secret weapon, something better than any detective's magnifying glass, and it had helped her unravel mysteries before. St. Mary Mead was a place where nothing seemed to happen, yet everything did if you knew where to look. The village was small, with a single shop, a church with a crooked steeple, and a pub where men argued over darts and ale. Everyone knew everyone else's business, or thought they did. Mrs. Price, who ran the shop, could tell you who bought extra sugar for a secret cake. Mr. Hodge, the postman, noticed every letter with a fancy seal, and Miss Marple, tucked in her cottage with its rose-covered walls, saw more than anyone. She didn't need to chase clues or ask nosy questions. People came to her, spilling their worries over tea, and she listened, her needles clicking, her mind piecing together the truth like a puzzle. Her secret weapon wasn't a gadget or a book of rules. It was her knack for understanding people, how they acted, what they hid, and why they lied. She'd learned it from years of watching the village, where every small drama, from a stolen pie to a lover's quarrel, taught her something about the human heart. The theft at the manor was the biggest news in years. Colonel Bantry, a kind man with a loud laugh and a red face, was a friend of Miss Marple's. His wife Dolly was her closest confidant, always ready to share a giggle or a gossip. The necklace, they said, was worth a fortune. Its deep blue, stones sparkling like a summer sky. It had been locked in a velvet case, shown off to the dinner guests before the meal. By the time the pudding was served, the case was empty. No broken windows, no picked locks, just a room full of fancy people and a missing treasure. The police had questioned everyone, from the maid who poured the wine to the guests in their shiny suits and dresses. Nobody saw anything, or so they claimed. Miss Marple didn't believe that for a second. Someone always saw something, even if they didn't know it. Her secret weapon told her so. She set her knitting aside and stood, smoothing her skirt. Her cottage was small, but tidy, with a fireplace that crackled in winter and shelves stuffed with novels and gardening books. A photograph of her nephew, Raymond, sat on the mantel, his cheeky grin reminding her of the world beyond the village. Raymond was a writer, always teasing her about her hobby of solving crimes. "Aunt Jane," he'd say, "you're sharper than Scotland Yard." She'd smile and pour him more tea, never admitting how much she enjoyed it. Solving mysteries wasn't just a game. It was like knitting a scarf, each clue a stitch that led to the next, and her secret weapon made it possible. Her ability to see the patterns in people, the way a jealous glance or a nervous laugh could reveal more than 100 questions. Miss Marple decided to visit Dolly Bantry. The manor was a 20-minute walk past the church and through a meadow where cows grazed lazily. She pulled on her coat, a sensible grey one that kept out the autumn chill, and grabbed her umbrella, just in case. The village was lively today, with Mrs. Price sweeping her shop steps and waving as Miss Marple passed. "Heard about the theft, Miss Marple?" she called. "Shocking, isn't it?" Miss Marple nodded, her smile polite. "Very shocking. Mrs. Price, I'm sure it'll sort itself out." She didn't stop to chat. Mrs. Price loved a good story, but she'd add her own flourishes, like sugar on a cake. Miss Marple preferred facts, plain and simple. The lane to the manor wound uphill, lined with blackberry bushes and wildflowers. Miss Marple walked slowly, her sturdy shoes crunching on gravel. She thought about the dinner party, piecing together what she'd heard. Dolly had invited a mix of people, some local, some from London. There was Mr. Sinclair, a young writer with a charming smile and a habit of spending too much money. Lady Harrington, a rich woman with a cold stare, was there, too, her jewels glittering brighter than the chandelier. And Mr. Clements, the vicar, had attended, though he rarely went to fancy parties. Miss Marple knew them all, at least a little. She'd seen Mr. Sinclair at the pub, laughing too loudly. Lady Harrington had visited the village once before, buying roses from the church fair, but never smiling. And Mr. Clements, poor man, was always nervous, his sermons stumbling over big words. Any of them could have taken the necklace, or none of them. That's what made it fun. Her secret weapon was already at work, tugging at her thoughts like a loose thread. People were like the villagers she knew. Take Tommy, the butcher's boy, who'd stolen apples from Mr. Hodges' tree last summer. He wasn't a bad lad, just hungry for something sweet and too proud to ask. Miss Marple had caught him, not by chasing him down, but by noticing his sticky fingers and guilty eyes. She'd given him a pie and a stern word, and he'd never stolen again. The necklace thief, she guessed, wasn't so different. They wanted something, money maybe, or the thrill of getting away with it. Her secret weapon would find them out, just as it always did. The manor came into view, its stone walls glowing in the late morning sun. It was a grand place, with tall windows and ivy climbing the sides like green lace. The gardens were Dolly's pride, bursting with roses and neat hedges. Miss Marple knocked on the heavy oak door, and a maid let her in, her face pale with worry. "Oh, Miss Marple," the maid said, "it's awful, isn't it? The Colonel's in a state." Miss Marple patted her arm. "There, Elsie, we'll get to the bottom of it." The maid nodded, though she didn't look convinced. Dolly Bantry was in the drawing-room, sprawled on a sofa with a cup of tea. Her hair was a mess, and her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "Jane!" she cried, jumping up. "Thank goodness you're here. It's a disaster. The necklace gone, and the police are useless, poking around and asking silly questions." Miss Marple sat beside her, her calm spreading like a warm blanket. "Tell me everything, Dolly," she said. "Start at the beginning." Dolly took a deep breath and began. The dinner party had been her idea, a chance to show off the necklace and have some fun. She'd invited 8 guests, plus the Colonel and herself. The necklace was in its case, locked with a tiny key she kept on a chain. Before dinner, she'd shown it to everyone, letting them ooh and ah over the sapphires. "It was perfect," Dolly said, her voice cracking. "Then we ate, laughed, drank wine. I checked the case at midnight and it was empty. Empty, Jane. No one left the room except maybe to the garden for a smoke. The police think it's an inside job, but I can't believe it." Miss Marple listened, her needles clicking in her mind, even though her hands were still. She asked gentle questions, nudging Dolly to remember small things. Who stood near the case? Did anyone seem nervous? Dolly frowned, thinking. Mr. Sinclair was chatty, as usual, but he kept looking at the case. Lady Harrington said the necklace was nice, but nothing special, which was odd. She loves jewels. And Mr. Clements was fidgety, spilling his soup. But that's just him, isn't it? Miss Marple nodded, storing every word. Her secret weapon was like a spider's web, catching tiny details that others missed. They sipped tea, the room quiet except for the tick of a grandfather clock. Miss Marple glanced around, noting the polished furniture and family portraits. The case, Dolly said, was kept on a side table near the French doors that led to the garden. The doors were open during the party, letting in the cool night air. Miss Marple's mind sparked. An open door, a dark garden. Someone could have slipped out and back in. Or someone outside could have crept in. She thought of another village story, when a lad named Billy had sneaked into the pub's cellar for a bottle of cider. He'd used the back door, thinking no one would notice. But Miss Marple had, because she always did. "Dolly," she said, "don't worry too much. People can't hide the truth forever. They slip up, one way or another." Dolly sighed, managing a small smile. "You're a wonder, Jane. If anyone can figure this out, it's you." Miss Marple didn't argue. She finished her tea and stood, promising to think things over. As she walked back to her cottage, the village seemed quieter. The sun dipping low, she passed the church, where Mr. Clements was sweeping leaves. His face pale, she waved, and he jumped, dropping his broom. "Good afternoon, Mr. Clements," she called. He mumbled something and hurried inside. Miss Marple's eyes narrowed, but her smile stayed soft. Back home, she settled into her chair, picking up her knitting. The pink shawl grew under her fingers, each stitch a step toward the truth. The theft was a puzzle, but puzzles had answers. Her secret weapon was already working, weaving together the dinner party, the guests and the village stories she knew so well. Someone had taken the necklace, and they thought they'd gotten away with it. But Miss Marple knew better. People were like books, full of secrets if you read them right. And she was very good at reading. As the evening settled over St. Mary, Miss Marple's cottage glowed with lamplight. She knitted and thought, her mind as sharp as her needles. The sapphire necklace was out there, and so was the thief. Her secret weapon, her quiet, clever way of seeing the world, would find them both. The village might be small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Marple had learned them all. Tomorrow she'd start asking questions, gentle ones that hid her purpose. For now, she let the puzzle sit, like dough rising before the bake. The answer would come, as it always did, because Miss Jane Marple never missed a stitch. Chapter 2. The Dinner Party. Miss Jane Marple woke early, the soft light of dawn creeping into her cottage like a shy guest. Her parlour was quiet. The pale pink shawl she'd been knitting draped over her chair like a sleeping cat. The village of St. Mary Mead was still, save for the chirp of sparrows and the distant clink of the milkman's bottles. Yesterday's visit to Dolly Bantry had lit a fire in Miss Marple's mind. The theft of the sapphire necklace at Colonel Bantry's. Manner was a puzzle, and her secret weapon, her knack for reading people through the simple truths of village life, was already at work. Today she'd dig deeper, starting with the dinner party where the crime happened. Dolly had promised to share every detail, and Miss Marple knew those details, no matter how small, held the key. She brewed a pot of tea, the kettle whistling, cheerfully, and nibbled a slice of toast with marmalade. Her cottage was cosy, with flowered wallpaper and a fireplace that hadn't been lit yet this autumn. A vase of late roses sat on the table, their scent mixing with the tea's warmth. Miss Marple sipped slowly, her sharp eyes drifting to the window. The village was waking up. Mrs. Price opening her shop, Mr. Hodge pedalling his postman's bicycle. St. Mary Mead looked peaceful, but Miss Marple knew better. Every village had secrets, just like every person. The necklace thief was one of those secrets, and she meant to find them out. After breakfast, she dressed in her usual sensible clothes. A grey skirt, a cream blouse, and a cardigan that felt like a hug. Her hat, a plain one with a small feather, sat on the hall table. She grabbed it, along with her umbrella, and stepped outside. The air was crisp, smelling of damp leaves and wood smoke. The walk to the manor wasn't long, but Miss Marple took her time, nodding to neighbours who waved. "Morning, Miss Marple," called Tommy, the butcher's boy, balancing a tray of sausages. She smiled, remembering how she'd caught him stealing apples last summer. A kind word and a slice of pie had set him right. People, she thought, were like that, full of mischief or worse, but always showing their true colours if you watched. The manor loomed ahead, its stone walls sturdy and grand, like a king's castle in a storybook. Ivy clung to the sides, and the gardens burst with colour. Dolly's roses still blooming despite the chill. Miss Marple knocked, and Elsie the maid opened the door, her eyes wide. "Oh, Miss Marple, Mrs. Bantry's expecting you. She's in the morning room, all in a flap." Miss Marple patted Elsie's hand. "Don't fret, dear. We'll sort it out." Elsie nodded, though her lip trembled. The theft had shaken the whole house, from the Colonel's booming temper to the servants' whispered fears. Dolly was pacing the morning room, her red hair tangled and her dress slightly askew. Papers and teacups cluttered the table, and a fire crackled in the grate, chasing off the damp. "Jane, thank goodness," Dolly said, rushing over. "I haven't slept a wink. The Colonel's furious, the police are poking everywhere, and I keep thinking, how could someone do this in our home?" Miss Marple sat in a cushioned chair, her calm like a cool breeze in the stuffy room. "Sit, Dolly," she said gently. "Tell me about the dinner party. Every little thing you remember." Dolly flopped onto the sofa, fanning herself with a magazine. "It was supposed to be splendid," she began. 10 of us, including me and the Colonel. I wanted to show off the necklace. It's been in his family for ages. Sapphires as big as robin's eggs, set in gold. I had it in a velvet case, locked with a key I keep on this chain. She touched a thin gold chain around her neck, the key glinting. Before dinner, I showed it to everyone in the drawing room. They all admired it, oohing and eyeing. Then we ate, drank, laughed. It was lovely. After dessert, I went to check the case around midnight. It was empty, Jane. The lock wasn't broken, the windows were shut, and no one had left, except maybe to the garden for a cigarette. Miss Marple listened, her mind sharp as a needle. She pictured the drawing room, which she'd seen many times. It was grand, with tall windows, heavy curtains, and a chandelier that sparkled like stars. The velvet case had sat on a side table near the French doors, which opened to the garden. Dolly said the doors were ajar during the party, letting in the night air. Miss Marple's secret weapon stirred, tugging at a memory. In St. Mary Mead, the baker's wife once lost a silver spoon during a church tea. It turned up in the garden, where a guest had dropped it while sneaking a kiss. Gardens, Miss Marple knew, were perfect for secrets. Who was there? She asked, her voice soft but firm. Dolly ticked off the guests on her fingers. Mr. Sinclair, that writer fellow, charming but a bit too slick if you ask me. Lady Harrington, all jewels and icy smiles. Mr. Clements, the vicar, who looked like he'd rather be anywhere else. Then there was Mrs. Lacey, the doctor's wife, sweet but quiet. Mr. and Mrs. Powell, they're local, own the big farm. Miss Trent, a painter from London, very artsy. And young Peter Bantry, the Colonel's nephew, home from university. Oh, and us, of course. Miss Marple nodded, filing away each name. She knew some of them. Mr. Sinclair had a reputation for spending. Money he didn't have, his laugh too loud at the pub. Lady Harrington, rich and haughty, had bought roses at the church fair, but never smiled. Mr. Clements was nervous, always dropping his hymn book during sermons. The others were less familiar, but Miss Marple's secret weapon didn't need much to start. People were like the villagers she'd watched for years, greedy, scared, or lovesick. Their motives as clear as glass if you looked right. Tell me about the evening, Miss Marple said. What did people do? Who stood where? Dolly frowned, thinking hard. Well, before dinner, we were all in the drawing room. I showed the necklace, passing the case around. Mr. Sinclair held it longest, saying how it'd inspire his next book. Lady Harrington sniffed, like it wasn't good enough for her. Mr. Clements barely looked, muttering about vanity. Then we went to the dining room. The case stayed on the table by the French doors. During dinner, people got up now and then to the powder room or the garden. Mr. Sinclair smoked outside, I think. Peter too. Lady Harrington stepped out for air. She said the room was stuffy. The Colonel was at the head of the table, telling war stories. I was busy hosting, making sure everyone had wine. Miss Marple's secret weapon hummed, catching the little things. Mr. Sinclair lingering over the case, Lady Harrington's cold remark, Mr. Clements's unease. They were threads in a tapestry, and she'd weave them together. She thought of a village story. Young Sally, the seamstress's girl, who'd taken a ribbon from the shop because she wanted to look pretty. She'd given herself away by wearing it the next day, too proud to hide it. The necklace thief, Miss Marple guessed, had a reason just as human. Money, envy, or something deeper. Did anyone act odd? She asked. Dolly tilted her head. Mr. Sinclair was jumpy now that I think of it. Kept glancing at the drawing-room door. Lady Harrington was her usual frosty self, but she asked about the necklace's history, which isn't like her. She doesn't care about other people's things. Mr. Clements spilled his wine, poor man, and apologized a dozen times. Peter was quiet, but he's always shy around strangers. The others, well, they were normal, chatting and eating. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. The morning room was bright, with sunlight streaming through windows that overlooked the garden. She could see the French doors from here, their glass panes gleaming. The doors were open all evening? She asked. Dolly nodded. Yes, it was warm and the garden smelled so nice. People wandered out and back. The case was right there, but I thought it was safe, locked and all. Miss Marple's secret weapon sparked again. An open door, a dark garden, a room full of people coming and going. It was a perfect chance for a thief. She remembered another village tale when Mr. Hodges' bicycle was stolen during a fair. It was found in the woods, hidden by a boy who'd wanted to impress his friends. The thief hadn't planned well, leaving muddy tracks. This thief, Miss Marple thought, was cleverer. But no one was perfect. They'd leave a track, a word, a look. She just had to find it. She asked Dolly to describe the case. "It's velvet, dark blue with a gold lock," Dolly said. "The key's tiny, fits on my chain." The police checked it. No scratches, no tampering. They think someone picked the lock or had a copy of the key, but that's impossible. "I never let it out of my sight," Miss Marple nodded, though she wasn't so sure. People overestimated their own watchfulness, especially at a party. She thought of Mrs. Price, who swore she'd locked her shop one night, only to find a window left open. Small mistakes led to big truths. They talked for an hour, Dolly spilling every moment of the night. The guests had eaten roast beef and trifle, laughed at the Colonel's jokes, and danced to a gramophone after dinner. The necklace wasn't checked until midnight, when Dolly noticed the case looked wrong. "Too light," she said. She opened it, screamed, and the party stopped. The police came, searching bags and pockets, but found nothing. The guests left, some annoyed, some scared. The Colonel was still grumbling, Dolly said, blaming himself for not hiring a guard. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her skirt. "You've been very helpful, Dolly. I'll think it over and come back tomorrow." Dolly grabbed her hand. "Jane, you're a miracle. If anyone can find that necklace, it's you." Miss Marple smiled, her eyes twinkling. "People can't hide forever, dear. They always slip." She walked home, the village bustling now with children playing and dogs barking. The manor's garden stayed in her mind. Those open doors, a silent clue. Her secret weapon was busy, tying the dinner party to the village stories she knew. Mr. Sinclair's jumpy glances, Lady Harrington's odd question, Mr. Clements's spilled wine. They were pieces of a puzzle. And Miss Marple loved puzzles. She passed the church, where Mr. Clements was polishing the brass bell, his hands shaking. "Good day, Miss Marple," he called, his voice thin. She waved, noting his pale face. Another piece, she thought. At her cottage, she settled into her chair, picking up her knitting. The pink shawl grew, each stitch a thought. The dinner party was a stage, the guests actors with hidden scripts. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, would uncover the truth. The necklace was gone, but not far, she felt. It. The thief was clever, but Miss Marple was cleverer. As the sun set, painting the village gold, she knitted and planned. Tomorrow she'd visit Mr. Clements, maybe Mr. Sinclair too. She'd ask gentle questions, watch their eyes, and listen. The truth was out there, waiting for her to find it, and Miss Jane Marple never failed. Chapter 3. The Art of Observation. The morning sun peeked over the hills of St. Mary Mead, painting the village in soft gold. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cottage, her knitting needles clicking like a gentle heartbeat. The pale pink shawl in her lap grew longer, its soft wool warm against her fingers. Her parlour was a cosy nest, with lace curtains fluttering at the window and a teapot steaming on the table. The scent of toast and lavender filled the air, mixing with the faint must of old books on her shelves. Outside, the village stirred. Children scampered to school, and the milkman's cart rattled down the lane. But Miss Marple's mind was on the sapphire necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her visit to Dolly yesterday had filled her head with details about the dinner party, and now her secret weapon was humming, ready to unravel the mystery. It wasn't a detective's toolkit or a police badge. It was her gift for seeing people's true selves, sharpened by years of watching the small dramas of village life. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. The theft was a puzzle, and puzzles were her favourite game. The necklace, with its deep blue stones, had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively party. No broken locks, no smashed windows, just a room full of guests and a thief who thought they'd outsmarted everyone. The police were stumped, but Miss Marple wasn't. Her secret weapon let her see what others missed. The way people acted, the things they didn't say, the tiny clues they left behind. She'd learned it from St. Mary Mead, where every gossip, every quarrel, taught her something about the human heart. A stolen necklace wasn't so different from a stolen pie or a hidden love letter. It came from wanting, fearing, or loving, and Miss Marple knew how to spot those feelings. She set her cup down and thought about the dinner party. Dolly had described it vividly. 10 people, including herself and the Colonel, eating, laughing, and dancing. The necklace was shown off before dinner, passed around in its case. By midnight, it was gone. The French doors to the garden were open, and guests wandered in and out. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, was jumpy, eyeing the case. Lady Harrington, the rich heiress, seemed too interested in the necklace's history. Mr. Clements, the vicar, was clumsy, spilling wine. These were the threads Miss Marple would pull, using her secret weapon to weave them into truth. She remembered a village boy, Tommy, who'd taken apples because he was hungry. His guilty eyes gave him away. The necklace, thief, she thought, would do the same. Miss Marple stood smoothing her grey skirt. Her cottage was tidy, with a fireplace ready for colder days, and a photo of her nephew Raymond grinning on the mantel. Raymond called her a sleuth in slippers, teasing her about her knack for solving mysteries. She smiled at the thought, slipping on her coat and hat. Today she'd start observing, not by chasing suspects, but by letting them come to her. Her secret weapon worked best when she seemed harmless, just a kind old lady who loved tea and gossip. People relaxed around her, spilling secrets without meaning to. She'd begin at the church, where Mr. Clements might be, and maybe stop by the shop to hear what Mrs. Price knew. The village was her map, and its people were her clues. The air outside was crisp, smelling of grass and chimney smoke. St. Mary Mead sparkled in the sunlight, its cottages huddled like friends sharing a joke. Miss Marple walked slowly, her umbrella tucked under her arm. Neighbours waved and she nodded back, her smile warm but her eyes sharp. Mrs. Price was sweeping her shop steps, her apron dusted with flour. "Morning, Miss Marple," she called. "Still talking about that theft, aren't we? Bold as brass, stealing from the Colonel." Miss Marple paused, her secret weapon already at work. "Very bold, Mrs. Price. Have you heard anything new?" Mrs. Price leaned closer, her voice low. "They say Mr. Sinclair's in debt, owing money all over London. And Lady Harrington, she's got more jewels than the Queen. Why'd she need another?" Miss Marple nodded, filing it away. "Interesting," she said. "I'm sure the truth will come out." She moved on, knowing Mrs. Price's gossip was half truth, half fancy, but even half-truths were useful. The church stood at The village's heart, its crooked steeple pointing to the sky. Miss Marple pushed open the gate, her shoes crunching on the gravel path. Inside, it was cool and quiet, smelling of wax and old hymn books. Mr. Clements was polishing a candlestick, his hands shaky. He jumped when she called his name, nearly, dropping it. "Oh, Miss Marple, I didn't see you." His face was pale, his eyes darting like a mouse's. She smiled, her secret weapon glowing. "Good morning, Mr. Clements. I was hoping to talk about the church fair. Could we have tea?" He nodded, stammering, and led her to the vestry, a small room with a kettle and mismatched cups. As they sat, Miss Marple steered the talk to the dinner party, gentle as a breeze. "It must have been quite an evening at the manor," she said, sipping her tea. Mr. Clements fidgeted, his spoon clinking against his cup. "Oh, yes, very grand. Too grand for me, really. I'm not used to such things." She tilted her head, her eyes kind but piercing. "You seemed nervous," Dolly said. "Spilled your wine?" He blushed, his hands twisting. "Clumsy of me. It was. Well, all those people, the necklace, it felt heavy, somehow, like a warning." Miss Marple's secret weapon caught that word. Warning. "A warning?" she asked softly. He looked away, muttering about vanity and sin, then changed the subject to the fair. She didn't push, but her mind stored his fear like a pebble in a pocket. Leaving the church, Miss Marple felt the puzzle shift. Mr. Clements knew something, or thought he did. Her secret weapon saw it in his trembling hands, his vague words. She thought of a village girl, Sally, who'd taken a ribbon and worn it proudly, not thinking anyone would notice. Mr. Clements wasn't a thief, but his fear was a clue, pointing to someone or something. She decided to visit the pub next, where Mr. Sinclair often lingered. The pub was a warm, noisy place, smelling of ale and pies. Mr. Sinclair wasn't there, but the barman Joe was happy to chat. "That writer's a charmer," Joe said, wiping a glass. "But he's always short on cash. Asked me to hold his tab last week." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon weaving Joe's words into the pattern. Debt was a powerful motive like hunger or envy. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple settled into her chair, knitting and thinking. The shawl grew, each stitch a piece of the mystery. Her secret weapon was her ability to watch and wait, letting people reveal themselves. Mr. Clements's fear, Mr. Sinclair's debts, Lady Harrington's cold interest. They were all part of the story. She thought of another village tale, when Mr. Hodges' bicycle was stolen. The thief, a boy named Billy, had left muddy tracks to the woods. The necklace thief had left tracks too, not in mud, but in glances, words, and silences. Miss Marple's secret weapon would find them. She decided to invite Mr. Sinclair for tea tomorrow, under the guise of asking about his books. People talked freely over tea, especially when they thought you were just a nosy old lady. Her cottage was perfect for it, warm, inviting, with a teapot always ready. She'd watch his eyes, listen to his laugh, and see what slipped out. Lady Harrington would be harder, too proud for casual chats, but Miss Marple had ways. About the church fair might bring her to the village, and a chance meeting could spark a talk. Her secret weapon thrived on such moments, turning small talk into big truths. As the afternoon faded, Miss Marple walked to the post office to mail a letter to Raymond. The village was busy, with children playing tag and dogs chasing their tails. Mr. Hodge, the postman, was sorting letters, his glasses slipping down his nose. "Heard you're sniffing out that theft," he said, grinning. "You'll catch 'em, Miss Marple." She smiled, saying nothing. Her secret weapon didn't need fanfare. It worked in the quiet, in the spaces between words. She bought a stamp, chatted about the weather, and learned that Lady Harrington had sent a package to London yesterday, full of fancy things, Mr. Hodge said, another pebble for her pocket. Back home, Miss Marple lit a lamp, the cottage glowing like a lantern. She knitted, her needles steady, her mind racing. The dinner party was a web and the guests were flies, caught in their own lies or fears. Her secret weapon saw it all. Mr. Clements's warning, Mr. Sinclair's debts, Lady Harrington's package. She thought of the village fair, when a lost brooch turned up in a child's pocket. Not stolen, but borrowed for fun. The necklace wasn't a child's game, but the motive was just as human. Greed, pride, or desperation. Miss Marple's secret weapon would uncover it, one careful stitch at a time. The evening settled over St. Mary Mead, the sky turning purple. Miss Marple's cottage was a haven, its walls holding years of secrets and solutions. She finished a row of knitting and set the shawl aside. Tomorrow she'd pull more threads, talk to Mr. Sinclair, maybe see Lady Harrington. Her secret weapon was patient, like a cat watching a mouse. The necklace was out there, and so was the thief. They thought they'd won, but Miss Marple knew better. People always left clues in their words, their eyes, their mistakes, and Miss Jane Marple, with her quiet smile and sharp mind, never missed a single one. Chapter 4. The Suspects. The morning in St. Mary Mead was bright, with sunlight spilling over the village like warm honey. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking softly as she worked on her pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and roses, with a hint of wax from the polished table. Outside, the village hummed. Children laughed on their way to school, and the milkman's cart jingled down the lane. Miss Marple's mind, though, was on the sapphire, necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her gift for understanding people through the small truths of village life, was buzzing like a bee. Yesterday's talk with Mr. Clements at the church and her chat at the pub had given her clues, and now she was ready to dig deeper. The dinner party guests were her suspects, and she'd use her quiet, clever way to learn their secrets. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm against her hands. Her cottage was a snug little world, with lace curtains, a ticking clock, and a photo of her nephew Raymond grinning on the mantel. The theft was a knot to untangle, and she loved knots. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively party with no sign of a break-in. The police were puzzled, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw what they didn't. People's hidden motives, revealed in glances, words, or nervous habits. She'd honed it in St. Mary Mead, where every petty theft or lover's spat taught her about greed, fear, or love. The necklace thief was driven by one of those, and she'd find out which. She thought about the suspects Dolly had named. Mr. Sinclair, the charming writer, Lady Harrington, the icy heiress, Mr. Clements, the nervous vicar, and others like Mrs. Lacey, Mr. and Mrs. Powell, Miss Trent, and Peter Bantry. Her talk with Mr. Clements yesterday had left a mark. His shaky hands and talk of a warning hinted at something he wasn't saying. At the pub, Joe the barman said Mr. Sinclair owed money everywhere. Mrs. Price at the shop whispered that Lady Harrington collected jewels like trophies. These were pieces of the puzzle, and Miss Marple's secret weapon would fit them together. She remembered Tommy, the village boy who stole apples, caught by his guilty blush. The thief, she thought, would betray themselves the same way. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, waited by the door. She grabbed it and her umbrella, stepping into the crisp morning air. The village sparkled, its cottages cosy under thatched roofs. She decided to invite the suspects for tea, one by one, pretending to need their help with the church fair. Her secret weapon worked best when people felt safe, letting their guards slip. She'd start with Mr. Sinclair, who was staying at the pub, then try Mr. Clements again, and maybe Lady Harrington, though she'd be trickier. Tea at her cottage was like a spider's web. Guests came in, and secrets came out. Her first stop was the pub, to find Mr. Sinclair. The Blue Boar was a warm, smoky place, with wooden beams and the smell of ale and fresh bread. Joe was behind, the bar, polishing glasses. "Morning, Miss Marple," he said, grinning. "Looking for that writer? He's upstairs, writing or sleeping off last night." She smiled, her eyes twinkling. "Could you ask him to tea at my cottage this afternoon? Say 3 o'clock? I'd love his advice on the church fair." Joe nodded, scratching his head. "Fancy him helping with a fair, but I'll tell him." Miss Marple thanked him, her secret weapon already spinning. Mr. Sinclair's debts made him a likely suspect, but she needed to see his eyes, hear his voice. Next, she walked to the church to catch Mr. Clements. The steeple leaned slightly, like an old man dozing. Inside it was quiet, the air cool and waxy. Mr. Clements was arranging hymn books, his fingers fumbling. "Miss Marple," he said, startled, dropping a book. "Didn't expect you." She smiled, her secret weapon soft as a whisper. "I was hoping you'd come for tea tomorrow, Mr. Clements. I need your thoughts on the fair's prayer service. Perhaps 2 o'clock?" He blinked, nodding quickly. "Of course, happy to help." His voice was tight, and Miss Marple noted it, like a stitch in her knitting. His fear was a clue, and she'd tug at it gently. Lady Harrington was harder. She was staying at a fancy house just outside the village, too grand for casual visits. Miss Marple wrote a note at the post office, asking her to discuss the fair's flower stall, and handed it to Mr. Hodge. "She's a tough one," he said, chuckling. "Sent a big parcel to London yesterday. Jewels, I bet." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon catching that detail. A parcel could mean nothing or everything. She'd try for tea the day after tomorrow, hoping Lady Harrington's pride wouldn't keep her away. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple prepared for Mr. Sinclair's visit. She baked scones, their buttery smell filling the kitchen, and set out, her best teacups white with tiny roses. Her parlour was perfect for her secret weapon. Warm, cluttered with cushions and books, it made people feel at home. They'd talk, laugh, and forget to hide their secrets. She thought of a village story. Sally, the seamstress's girl, who took a ribbon and wore it boldly, thinking no one would care. Mr. Sinclair, with his debts, might be just as bold or just as careless. Her secret weapon would find out. At 3, Mr. Sinclair arrived, his smile wide but his eyes tired. He was handsome, with dark hair and a suit that looked expensive but wrinkled. "Miss Marple, what a charming place," he said, settling into a chair. She poured tea, her needles clicking in her mind. "Thank you, Mr. Sinclair. I'm hoping you can help with the church fair. Perhaps a reading from your books." Laughed, sipping his tea. "Me at a fair? I'm flattered. Not sure I'm the village type, though." She smiled, steering the talk to the manor. "Such a shame about the necklace. You were at the party, weren't you? Must have been quite a night." Mr. Sinclair's smile faltered, just for a second. "Oh, yes, dreadful business. Poor Mrs. Bantry was in a state. I didn't see much, too busy chatting." His fingers tapped, his cup, and Miss Marple's secret weapon noticed. She mentioned the necklace's blue stones, watching his face. "Such a lovely colour, like the sea," she said. A bead of sweat appeared on his forehead, and he changed the subject, talking about his latest book. She nodded, letting him ramble, but her mind was busy. His unease was a thread, and she'd pull it later. After he left, promising to think about the fair, Miss Marple sat with her knitting. The shawl grew, each stitch a thought. Mr. Sinclair's nerves, his quick dodge when she mentioned the sapphires, they fit with his debts. She thought of another village tale, when Billy stole Mr. Hodges' bicycle to show off. He'd bragged too much, giving himself away. Mr. Sinclair's charm was his brag, but it hid something. Her secret weapon saw it, clear as day. The next day Mr. Clements came for tea, his collar stiff and his hands shaky. The parlour was warm, scones fresh from the oven. "Thank you for coming," Miss Marple said, pouring tea. "The fair's prayer service needs your touch." He nodded, sipping nervously. "Happy to help, though I'm no good with crowds." She smiled, her secret weapon soft but sharp. "You seemed out of sorts at the manor," Dolly said. "All that fuss over the necklace must have been upsetting." His cup rattled in its saucer. It was unsettling. So much wealth, so much temptation. I heard things, words I shouldn't have. Her heart quickened, but her face stayed calm. "Words?" she asked gently. He flushed, mumbling about sin and hurrying to talk about hymns. Miss Marple didn't push, but her secret weapon held his slip tight. He'd overheard something, and it scared him. After he left, Miss Marple walked to the shop to buy sugar, hoping to hear more gossip. Mrs. Price was eager, her eyes bright. "That Lady Harrington's been seen in the village buying gloves. Thinks she's above us, but I heard she's mad for rare gems. Bet she's got that necklace." Miss Marple smiled, letting Mrs. Price talk. Gossip was like a river, muddy, but with gold if you sifted it. Lady Harrington's love of jewels was another thread, tying to the parcel Mr. Hodge mentioned. Back home, Miss Marple knitted, the evening light soft through her window. Her secret weapon was weaving a pattern. Mr. Sinclair's sweat, Mr. Clements's fear, Lady Harrington's greed. She thought of the village fair, when a lost brooch was found in a child's pocket, not stolen but taken for fun. The necklace was no child's toy, but the motive was just as human, wanting something too much. She'd sent a note to Lady Harrington, and if she came for tea, Miss Marple would watch her closely. Her secret weapon thrived on such moments, turning polite chats into windows to the truth. As night fell, St. Mary Mead glowed with lamplight, its cottages snug against the dark. Miss Marple's parlour was a haven, her knitting a steady rhythm. The suspects were like characters in a book, each with a story to tell. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, would read those stories, page by page. Mr. Sinclair's debts, Mr. Clemence's eavesdropping, Lady Harrington's parcel. They were clues, and the necklace was the prize. The thief thought they were clever, but Miss Marple was cleverer. She'd keep watching, listening and knitting, until the truth slipped out, as it always did. Chapter 5. A Slip of the Tongue. The morning in St. Mary Mead was gentle, with a soft mist hugging the village like a woolly blanket. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she added rose to her pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of warm scones and tea, with a hint of lavender from a bowl on the window-sill. Sunlight slipped through lace curtains, painting patterns on the rug. Outside, the village woke slowly. Dogs barked, children shouted on their way to school, and the milkman's cart rattled past. Miss Marple's mind, though, was sharp and busy, focused on the sapphire necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her knack for seeing people's true hearts through the lens of village life, was humming like a well-tuned fiddle. Her tea sessions with Mr. Sinclair and Mr. Clements had given her clues, and today she hoped to coax more secrets from Lady Harrington. A slip of the tongue, she knew, could unravel the tightest knot. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup cosy in her hands. Her cottage was a snug haven with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew, Raymond, on the mantel, and shelves stuffed with books and knitting patterns. The theft was a puzzle, and she loved puzzles. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party, with no broken locks or obvious clues. The police were stumped, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw what they missed. The tiny signs people left behind, nervous glances, quick words, or shaky hands. She'd learned it from years in St. Mary Mead, where every small drama, from a stolen loaf to a hidden crush, taught her about human nature. The necklace thief was no different, driven by greed, fear, or something deeper, and she'd catch them with her quiet, clever way. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the charming writer, had sweated when she mentioned the necklaces. Blue stones, his debts a heavy shadow. Mr. Clements, the nervous vicar, had hinted at overhearing something at the party, his fear like a flag waving. Lady Harrington, the cold heiress, loved jewels, and had sent a mysterious parcel to London, according to Mr. Hodge. These were threads in a tapestry, and Miss Marple's secret weapon was weaving them together. She remembered Sally, the village girl who took a ribbon and wore it proudly, caught by her own boldness. The thief, she thought, would slip up too. A word, a look, a mistake. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, sat by the door with her umbrella. She'd sent a note to Lady Harrington yesterday, asking her to discuss the church fair's flower stall. If she came, tea would be the perfect trap. Her parlour's warmth, loosened tongues, and her secret weapon thrived on such moments. She baked a fresh batch of scones, their buttery smell filling the cottage, and set out her rose-patterned teacups. Then she tidied the parlour, plumping cushions and dusting the mantel. Everything was ready for Lady Harrington's visit at 3. Before that, Miss Marple decided to stop by the shop to hear the latest gossip. The village was bright now, the mist lifting to show cottages with smoky chimneys. Mrs. Price was behind, her counter sorting apples. "Morning, Miss Marple," she called, her eyes twinkling. "Still chasing that thief? I hear Lady Harrington's been snooty as ever, buying silk scarves and not saying thank you." Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon catching the hint. "She's a busy lady, I'm sure. Anything else about the manor?" Mrs. Price leaned closer, whispering, "They say Mr. Sinclair's been asking about jewellers in London. Shady, if you ask me." Miss Marple nodded, storing the nugget. Gossip was like a pie, mostly crust, but with tasty bits if you dug. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple prepared for Lady Harrington. She thought about her tea with Mr. Sinclair, how his sweat and quick topic change screamed guilt. Mr. Clement's talk of temptation and overheard words was vaguer, but just as telling. Her secret weapon saw patterns, like the village fair when a lost brooch turned up in a child's pocket, taken for fun. The necklace was no toy, but the motive was human, wanting something too much. Lady Harrington, with her love of jewels, was a strong suspect, and Miss Marple hoped to nudge her into a slip. At 3, a sharp knock announced Lady Harrington. She swept in, her fur coat brushing the doorframe, her face as cold as a winter pond. Her jewels sparkled, diamond earrings, a ruby brooch, but her eyes were hard. "Miss Marple," she said, her voice crisp, "I came about your note, though I'm not sure I'm suited for village fairs." Miss Marple smiled her secret, weapon soft as a feather. "How kind of you to come, Lady Harrington. Tea? I'd love your advice on the flower stall." She poured tea, offering a scone, and the parlour's warmth seemed to thaw Lady Harrington's edges, just a little. They sat, the fire crackling, and Miss Marple steered the talk gently. "The fair's a small thing, but we do our best. Such a pity about the manor's theft. It's upset everyone." Lady Harrington sipped her tea, her lips tight. "A careless loss, I'd say. People should guard their treasures better." Miss Marple nodded, her eyes kind but sharp. "The necklace was stunning, wasn't it? Those sapphires so blue." Lady Harrington's fingers twitched, and she glanced at Miss Marple's modest brooch, a plain silver pin. "It was adequate," she said. "I've seen finer." Her eyes lingered on the pin, as if weighing its worth, and Miss Marple's secret weapon sparked. That glance was greedy, like a magpie's. Miss Marple kept the talk light, asking about flowers, but slipped in questions about the party. "You were there, weren't you? Must have been a lively night." Lady Harrington shrugged, her voice cool. "Dull, mostly. Too much chatter, not enough taste. I stepped outside for air. The room was stifling." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon catching the detail. The French doors to the garden, open during the party, were a thief's chance. She thought of Billy, the village boy who stole a bicycle and left muddy tracks. Lady Harrington's air could hide more. As they finished tea, Lady Harrington stood, her fur coat rustling. "I'll consider the fair, Miss Marple, but I'm very busy." She paused, then added, "You're quite observant for a village lady." Her tone was sharp, and Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon hidden. "I just listen, dear. People tell me things." Lady Harrington left, her heels clicking, and Miss Marple sat back, knitting. That greedy glance, that comment about the garden, they were clues bright as stars. Later, Miss Marple walked to the post office to mail a letter. The village was lively, with children playing and dogs chasing balls. Mr. Hodge was sorting parcels, his glasses foggy. "Heard you had Lady Harrington over," he said, grinning. "She sent another package today. More jewels, I reckon." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon weaving the thread. 2 parcels in 2 days. Odd for a guest just visiting. She thought of Mrs. Price's gossip about Mr. Sinclair asking about jewellers. The puzzle was growing, and her secret weapon loved it. Back home, Miss Marple decided to revisit Mr. Clements. His fear nagged at her like a loose stitch. She found him at the church, sweeping the path. "Mr. Clements, could we talk again?" "About the fair, of course." He nodded, his face pale, and they sat in the vestry, the kettle hissing. She poured tea, her secret weapon gentle. "You mentioned temptation at the manor. It stayed with me." His hands shook, spilling sugar. I shouldn't have said that. I heard voices in the garden, angry ones. It wasn't my place." Her heart jumped, but her smile stayed soft. "Voices? How troubling." He stammered, saying it was nothing, just party noise, but his eyes were wide. Miss Marple let it go, her secret weapon holding the clue tight. As evening fell, Miss Marple knitted, the shawl growing under her fingers. Her parlour glowed with lamplight, the village quiet outside. Her secret weapon was busy, tying together the day's slips. Lady Harrington's greedy glance, her garden excuse, Mr. Clements's talk of angry voices. She thought of Tommy, the boy who stole apples and blushed when caught. The necklace thief was bolder, but just as human, leaving trails in their words and looks. Mr. Sinclair's sweat, Lady Harrington's parcels, Mr. Clements's fear. They were pieces, and the truth was close. Miss Marple planned her next move. She'd visit the manor tomorrow, asking to see the drawing-room again. The French doors, the velvet cases table. Something might spark. Her secret weapon thrived on details, like the village fair when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The necklace was out there, and the thief was slipping, little by little. She'd keep watching, listening, knitting, until the puzzle clicked into place. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Marple knew them all. The thief thought they were safe, but Miss Jane Marple, with her quiet smile and sharp eyes, was closing in. Chapter 6. The Hidden Clue. The morning in St. Mary Mead was crisp, with a breeze rustling the trees like a whispered secret. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she added soft loops to her pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and warm scones, with sunlight slipping through lace curtains to dance on the wooden floor. Outside, the village buzzed gently. Children skipped to school. A dog barked at the milkman's cart, and sparrows chirped in the hedges. Miss Marple's mind was sharp, focused on the sapphire necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her gift for reading people through the small dramas of village life, was alive, piecing together clues from her tea chats with Mr. Sinclair, Mr. Clements, and Lady Harrington. Their slips of the tongue had given her threads to pull, but now she needed something solid, a clue in the manor itself. Today she'd visit Dolly Bantry to see the drawing room where the theft happened, trusting her secret weapon to spot what the police had missed. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. Her cottage was a snug nest, with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew, Raymond, grinning on the mantel, and shelves crammed with books and yarn. The necklace theft was a puzzle, and she loved untangling knots. The sapphires had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party, with no broken locks or smashed windows. The police were baffled, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw beyond their checklists. It was her knack for noticing the little things, nervous twitches, odd words or misplaced objects that revealed the truth. She'd learned it in St. Mary Mead, where every stolen apple or whispered gossip taught her about human hearts. The thief, she knew, had left a trace, and her secret weapon would find it. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, had sweated when she mentioned the necklace's blue stones, his debts a heavy clue. Mr. Clements, the vicar, had overheard angry voices in the garden, his fear a bright flag. Lady Harrington, the jewel-hungry heiress, had glanced greedily at Miss Marple's brooch and sent parcels to London. These were pieces of the puzzle, and her secret weapon was stitching them together. She remembered Billy, the village boy who stole a bicycle and left muddy tracks in the woods. The necklace thief was cleverer, but no one was perfect. A clue was waiting, maybe in the Manor's drawing room, and Miss Marple's sharp eyes would spot it. She stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, sat by the door with her umbrella. The walk to the Manor was short, through lanes lined with blackberry bushes and late wildflowers. The village sparkled in the morning light, its cottages cosy under thatched roofs. Miss Marple nodded to neighbours, her smile warm, but her mind racing. Mrs. Price waved from her shop, shouting, "Any luck with that theft, Miss Marple?" She replied, "We'll see, Mrs. Price," keeping her thoughts close. Gossip was useful, but facts were better, and her secret weapon thrived on facts. At the Manor, Elsie, the maid, opened the door, her face pale. "Mrs. Bantry's in the morning room, Miss Marple. She's still upset about the necklace." Miss Marple patted her arm. "Chin up, Elsie. We'll sort it out." The Manor was grand, with stone walls and ivy like green lace. Inside, it smelled of Polish and flowers, though the air felt heavy with worry. Dolly was slumped in an armchair, a half-empty teacup beside her. "Jane!" she cried, jumping up. "I'm a wreck. The Colonel's grumbling. The police are useless, and I keep thinking, who could do this?" Miss Marple sat, her calm like a soft blanket. "Let's look at the drawing room, Dolly. I'd like to see where the case was kept." Dolly led her down a wide hall, past portraits of stern Bantrys and vases of roses. The drawing-room was grand, with tall windows, heavy red curtains, and a chandelier that glittered like frozen rain. The side table where the velvet case had sat was near the French doors, which opened to the garden. The doors were glass, framed in dark wood, and Miss Marple's secret weapon hummed as she pictured the party. Guests laughing, wine flowing, the doors ajar to let in the night air. "Here's where it was," Dolly said, pointing to the table. "I showed the necklace before dinner, then left the case here. It was locked, I swear." Miss Marple nodded, her eyes scanning the room. The police had searched every inch, dusting for fingerprints and checking locks, but found nothing. She didn't expect to find the necklace under a cushion, but her secret weapon looked for subtler things. She walked to the French doors, her shoes soft on the rug. The garden outside was neat, with trimmed hedges and a stone path leading to a fountain. She opened one door, testing the latch. It moved smoothly, but her sharp eyes caught a faint mark. A tiny scratch on the metal, barely visible, like a whisper of mischief. Her heart quickened, but her face stayed calm. "Interesting," she murmured, closing the door. Dolly frowned. "What's interesting? The police checked those doors. No damage." Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon glowing. "Just thinking, dear. Tell me again about the party. Who went outside?" Dolly sighed, sitting on a sofa. "Lots of people. Mr. Sinclair smoked in the garden, I think. Lady Harrington wanted air. She said the room was stuffy. Peter, the Colonel's nephew, stepped out too, maybe with Miss Trent. It was a warm night, and the doors were open till we closed them after dessert." Miss Marple nodded, the scratch burning in her mind. It wasn't proof, but it was a clue, like muddy tracks after a theft. She thought of a village story. Young Tommy, the butcher's boy, who'd sneaked into a shed for a prank, scratching the lock with a pin. He'd been caught when Miss Marple noticed the mark and his guilty grin. The manner's scratch suggested someone had tampered with the latch, maybe from outside, during the party's chaos. Her secret weapon tied it to the suspects. Mr. Sinclair, with his debts, might have planned a quick grab. Lady Harrington, greedy for jewels, could have used the garden as cover. Even Mr. Clements, nervous as he was, might know more about those angry voices he'd heard. The scratch was a thread, and Miss Marple would pull it. She asked to see the velvet case, and Dolly fetched it from a drawer. It was dark blue, soft as a kitten, with a gold lock that gleamed. "The key's on my chain," Dolly said, showing the tiny key around her neck. "The police said the lock wasn't forced." Miss Marple turned the case over, her fingers gentle. The lock was intact, but her secret weapon wondered about the key. Could someone have borrowed it, copied it, or picked the lock? She thought of Mrs. Price, who once left her shop key in the door, letting a thief slip in. Small mistakes led to big crimes. They sat in the drawing-room, sipping tea Dolly had called for. Miss Marple asked more about the party, her questions soft but sharp. Did anyone linger by the table? Dolly thought hard. Mr. Sinclair stood there a while, admiring the case. Lady Harrington passed by, but she didn't touch it. Mr. Clements kept his distance, looking uncomfortable. The others, Mrs. Lacey, the Powells, Miss Trent, Peter, they were all over, dancing or chatting. Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon weaving the details. The scratch, the open doors, the suspects' movements. They were pieces, and the puzzle was clearer. Before leaving, Miss Marple walked to the garden, pretending to admire the roses. The stone path was clean, but she noticed a spot near the doors where the grass was slightly flattened, as if someone had stood there too long. Her secret weapon sparked again. It wasn't much, but it fit the scratch, suggesting someone had lingered outside, maybe watching, maybe planning. She thought of Billy's bicycle theft, how his footprints led to the woods. The thief here was careful, but not careful enough. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple settled into her chair, knitting the shawl. The parlour glowed with afternoon light, the village quiet outside. Her secret weapon was busy, tying the scratch to the suspects. Mr. Sinclair's nervous sweat, Lady Harrington's garden excuse, Mr. Clements's talk of voices. They all pointed to the French doors. She remembered the village fair when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The scratch and flattened grass were like those shoes, small but telling. Someone had used the garden, maybe slipping in or out, and the scratch was their mistake. Miss Marple decided to talk to Mr. Clements again, his fear still nagging her. She'd invite him for tea tomorrow, using the church fair as an excuse. Her secret weapon worked best over tea, when people forgot to hide their thoughts. She'd also ask Dolly about the key. Had it ever left her sight? And Lady Harrington's parcels, mentioned by Mr. Hodge, needed checking. A trip to the post office might uncover more. Her secret weapon thrived on such details, turning whispers into shouts. As evening fell, Miss Marple walked to the post office to buy stamps. The village was golden, with children playing and smoke curling from chimneys. Mr. Hodge was behind the counter, sorting letters. "Still on that theft, Miss Marple?" asked, winking. "Lady Harrington's parcels are piling up. Another one today." She smiled, her secret weapon catching the thread. "She's a busy lady," she said, buying her stamps. 3 parcels in 3 days. Too many for a short visit. It could be nothing. Or it could be the necklace, sent away to hide. Back home, Miss Marple knitted, the shawl growing under her fingers. The parlour was warm, the lamp casting a soft glow. Her secret weapon was weaving a pattern. The scratch, the grass, the parcels, the voices. She thought of Tommy's prank, how a tiny mark led to the truth. The necklace thief was clever, but the scratch was their slip, and Miss Marple's secret weapon would follow it. Tomorrow she'd pull more threads, talk to Mr. Clements, check the key, and watch for Lady Harrington's next move. The thief thought they were safe, but Miss Marple was closer, her quiet smile hiding a mind as sharp as her needles. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Jane Marple never missed a clue. Chapter 7. The Motive Uncovered. The morning in St. Mary Mead was cool, with a soft grey sky draping the village like a cosy blanket. Miss Jane Marple sat in her snug parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she wove loops into a pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and warm scones, with a hint of lavender from a bowl on the windowsill. Sunlight peeked weakly through lace curtains, casting faint shadows on the rug. Outside, the village stirred. Children scampered down lanes, the milkman's cart jingled, and a dog barked at a passing cat. Miss Marple's mind was sharp, buzzing with the sapphire necklace theft at Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her gift for reading people through the quiet dramas of village life, was working hard, tying clues from tea chats and a scratchet she'd found on the manor's French door latch. Today, she aimed to uncover the thief's motive, using her secret weapon to draw out the truth with gentle questions and keen eyes. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. Her cottage was a safe haven, with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew Raymond smiling on the mantel, and shelves stuffed with books and yarn. The theft was a puzzle, and she was close to solving it. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party, with no broken locks or obvious clues. The police were stumped, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw what they missed, the small signs people left behind, sweaty brows, shaky hands, or careless words. She'd learned it in St. Mary Mead, where every stolen pie or whispered gossip taught her about greed, fear, or love. The thief's motive was one of those, and her secret weapon would find it. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, was deep in debt. His nervous sweat a clue when she mentioned the necklace's sapphires. Lady Harrington, the jewel-loving heiress, had sent multiple parcels to London and glanced greedily at Miss Marple's brooch. Mr. Clements, the vicar, had overheard angry voices in the garden, his fear a thread that tugged at her. The scratch on the French door latch, found yesterday, suggested someone had tampered with it, likely from the garden. Her secret weapon wove these pieces together, like the village fair when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The motive was close, she could feel it, and today's tea with Mr. Clements might unravel it. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, waited by the door with her umbrella. She'd invited Mr. Clements for tea at 2, using the church fair as an excuse. Her secret weapon worked best in her parlour, where the cosy warmth and rose-patterned teacups made people forget to guard their words. She baked scones, their buttery smell filling the cottage, and tidied the parlour, plumping cushions and dusting the mantel. Before he arrived, she decided to visit the post office to check on Lady Harrington's parcels, which Mr. Hodge kept mentioning. Her secret weapon loved details, and those parcels nagged at her like a loose stitch. The village was quiet, the grey sky keeping folks indoors. Miss Marple walked to the post office, her shoes crunching on gravel. The cottages looked snug, smoke curling from chimneys. Mr. Hodge was behind the counter sorting letters. "Morning, Miss Marple," he said, grinning. Still after that thief, Lady Harrington sent another parcel, 4th one this week, heavy too. Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon sparking. 4 parcels in 4 days was odd for a guest. "She must be busy," she said, buying a stamp. "Any idea what's in them?" Mr. Hodge shrugged. "She says clothes, but who needs that many? Bet it's jewels." Miss Marple smiled, filing the clue away. Parcels could hide the necklace, sent to a buyer, or a fence. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple prepared for Mr. Clements. She thought about her tea with Mr. Sinclair, his sweat when she mentioned sapphires, and Lady Harrington's greedy glance at her brooch. The scratch on the latch pointed to the garden, where Mr. Clements had heard voices. Her secret weapon saw patterns, like when Tommy, the butcher's boy, scratched a shedlock for a prank and was caught by his guilty grin. The thief was clever, but the scratch was their mistake, and Mr. Clements's fear might lead to their motive. At 2, Mr. Clements arrived, his collar stiff and his hands shaky. He looked pale, like he hadn't slept, his eyes darting around the parlour. "Thank you for having me, Miss Marple," he said, sitting stiffly. She poured tea, offering a scone, her secret weapon gentle as a breeze. "It's kind of you to help with the fair's prayer service," she said. "You have such a calming way." He managed a weak smile, sipping his tea. "I try, but I'm not much for crowds." She nodded, steering the talk to the manor. "That party must have been overwhelming. You mentioned temptation, such a strong word." Mr. Clements's cup rattled, and a drop of tea spilled. "Did I? I shouldn't have. It was just the necklace, all that wealth. It felt wrong." Miss Marple's secret weapon caught his fear, bright as a candle. "Wrong?" she asked softly, her eyes kind but piercing. He fidgeted, his fingers twisting. "I heard things in the garden, voices arguing. I didn't mean to listen, but they were loud. Something about a deal, a promise broken. It scared me." Her heart quickened, but her face stayed calm. "They hear, it's your here. Deal?" she prompted, pouring more tea to keep him talking. He swallowed hard, his voice low. I couldn't hear it all, but it was Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington. He sounded angry, saying she owed him. She told him to be quiet, that it wasn't safe. I hid behind the fountain. I know I shouldn't have, but I was afraid. Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon glowing. This was gold, a motive taking shape. Mr. Sinclair's debts, Lady Harrington's greed, and now an argument about a deal. She thought of Sally, the village girl who took a ribbon and wore it boldly, caught by her pride. The thief's pride, or desperation, had led to this slip. She kept her questions gentle, not wanting to spook him. "How troubling," she said, "but you did right to tell me. It's just between us." Mr. Clements relaxed slightly, nibbling a scone. "I didn't want to cause trouble. I just want the church to be peaceful." She smiled, her secret weapon holding the clue tight. "You've helped more than you know. Now, about that prayer service." She shifted to the fair, letting him talk about hymns, but her mind was racing. Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington arguing in the garden, tied to the scratch on the latch. The motive was money or jewels, maybe both. After Mr. Clements left, promising to send a prayer draft, Miss Marple sat with her knitting. The shawl grew, each stitch a thought. Her secret weapon was weaving a clear pattern. Mr. Sinclair, desperate for cash, might have planned the theft with Lady Harrington, who craved rare gems. Their argument suggested a deal gone sour. Maybe she'd promised to pay him for the necklace, but backed out. The parcels to London could be the necklace, sent to a buyer. She thought of Billy's bicycle theft, how his muddy tracks led to the woods. The scratch and the argument were the thief's tracks, and Miss Marple was following them. She decided to visit Dolly tomorrow to ask about the key to the velvet case. Had it ever left her sight? A copied key could explain the clean lock. She'd also check with Mr. Hodge again. Those parcels were too frequent to ignore. Her secret weapon thrived on such details, turning whispers into truths. She thought of the village fair, when a lost brooch was found in a child's pocket, taken for fun. The necklace was no game, but the motive was human: greed, desperation, or betrayal. Mr. Sinclair's debts screamed desperation. Lady Harrington's parcels hinted at greed. Together, they could be the answer. Miss Marple walked to the shop to buy sugar, hoping for more gossip. Mrs. Price was sweeping, her apron dusted with flour. "Heard anything, Miss Marple?" she asked, eyes bright. "They say Mr. Sinclair's been on the telephone talking to London, and Lady Harrington's driver was seen polishing her car late last night, like she's planning a trip." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon catching the threads. Phone calls and a polished car could mean plans to leave, maybe with the necklace already gone. "Interesting," she said, paying for the sugar. "The truth always comes out." Back home, Miss Marple knitted, the evening light soft through her window. The parlour glowed with lamplight. The village quiet outside. Her secret weapon was busy, tying the argument to the scratch, the parcels, and the suspect's motives. She thought of Tommy's apple theft, how his sticky fingers gave him away. Mr. Sinclair's sweat, Lady Harrington's greed, and their garden argument were stickier, pointing to a shared plan. The motive was clearer now. Mr. Sinclair needed money. Lady Harrington wanted the necklace, and their deal had cracked, leaving angry words and a stolen gem. Miss Marple planned her next steps. She'd talk to Dolly about the key and nudge her to spread a rumour about a witness, hoping to scare the thieves into a mistake. Her secret weapon loved traps, like when she caught Jenny hiding stolen eggs, by asking about her henhouse. The manor's French doors, the garden voices, and the parcels were puzzle pieces, and her secret weapon was fitting them together. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big. People's hearts always showed through, whether in a stolen pie or a priceless necklace. As night fell, the village glowed with lamplight, its cottages snug against the dark. Miss Marple's parlour was a haven, her knitting a steady rhythm. The suspects were like actors on a stage, their lies thin as paper. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, would tear those lies apart. Mr. Sinclair's debts, Lady Harrington's parcels, Mr. Clemence's fear, they were clues, and the necklace was close. The thief thought they'd won, but Miss Marple was cleverer. Tomorrow she'd tighten the net, and the truth would slip out, as it always did. Chapter 8. The Trap is Set. The morning in St. Mary Mead was bright, with a crisp breeze sweeping through the village like a playful child. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she added soft rose to her pale, pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and warm muffins, with sunlight streaming through lace curtains, painting golden patches on the rug. Outside the village hummed. Children laughed on their way to school. The milkman's cart rattled, and sparrows chattered in the hedges. Miss Marple's mind was sharp, focused on the sapphire necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her gift for seeing people's true selves through the small truths of village life, was buzzing like a busy bee. The clues from her tea chats, the scratch on the manor's French door latch, and Mr. Clemence's story of an argument between Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington had brought her close to the truth. Today, she'd set a trap to catch the thief, using her secret weapon to nudge them into a mistake. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. Her cottage was a snug little world, with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew Raymond grinning on the mantel, and shelves stuffed with books and yarn. The theft was a puzzle, and she was ready to solve it. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party, with no broken locks or obvious clues. The police were puzzled, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw what they missed. The tiny signs people left behind. Nervous glances, quick words, or small mistakes. She'd learned it in St. Mary Mead, where every stolen loaf or whispered gossip taught her about greed, fear, or love. The thief was driven by one of those, and her secret weapon would make them slip. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, was deep in debt, his sweaty brow a clue when she mentioned the sapphires. Lady Harrington, the jewel-loving heiress, had sent 4 parcels to London, and glanced greedily at Miss Marple's brooch. Mr. Clements, the vicar, had overheard Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington arguing in the garden about a deal gone wrong. His fear a bright thread. The scratch on the French door latch and the flattened grass outside suggested someone had tampered with the door, likely from the garden. Her secret weapon wove these clues together, like the village fair, when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The motive was clear. Mr. Sinclair needed money, Lady Harrington craved the necklace, and their argument hinted at a plan that had soured. Now Miss Marple would set a trap to make them reveal themselves. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, waited by the door with her umbrella. She'd visit Dolly Bantry at the manor to ask about the key to the velvet case and suggest a plan to catch the thief. Her secret weapon worked best when she seemed harmless, just a kind old lady with a knack for gossip. People let their guard down, and that's when they slipped. She baked a batch of muffins, their sweet smell filling the cottage, and packed a few in a tin for Dolly. Then she tidied the parlour, knowing she might need it for more tea chats soon. Her secret weapon loved a cosy setting, where secrets spilled, like sugar from a jar. The village was lively, with sunlight glinting off cottage windows. Miss Marple walked to the manor, her steps slow but sure. The lanes were lined with late wildflowers, and neighbours waved as she passed. Mrs. Price called from her shop. "Any news on that theft, Miss Marple?" She smiled, her secret weapon hidden. "Not yet, Mrs. Price, but we're getting there." Gossip was useful, but today she needed facts, upset her mind. At the manor, Elsie, the maid, opened the door, her face worried. "Mrs. Bantry's in the morning room, Miss Marple. She's still fretting about the necklace." Miss Marple patted her arm. "Don't worry, Elsie. We'll fix this." The manor was grand, its stone walls sturdy and ivy-covered, like a castle from a storybook. Dolly was pacing the morning room, her red hair messy and her eyes tired. "Jane, thank goodness," she said, hugging her. "The Colonel's in a temper, and I'm at my wits' end." Miss Marple sat, her calm like a cool breeze. "Let's talk, Dolly. I have an idea, but first tell me about the key to the velvet case. Did it ever leave your sight?" Dolly touched the tiny key on her chain. "Never. I wore it all night, even at the party. The police checked. It's the only one." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon sparking. If the key wasn't copied, the lock might have been picked, and the scratch on the latch pointed to the garden. She thought of Tommy, the village boy who stole apples and was caught by his sticky fingers. The thief's fingers had left that scratch, and she'd use it to trap them. Miss Marple shared her plan. "Dolly, let's spread a rumour that you found a clue. A witness who saw someone in the garden. Say you're telling the police tomorrow. I'll watch the guests and see who panics." Dolly's eyes widened. "Jane, that's brilliant. But dangerous? Won't the thief get mad?" Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon steady. "They'll make a mistake, Dolly. People always do when they're scared." She thought of Billy, who stole a bicycle and bragged too much, giving himself away. The thief would brag or bolt, and her secret weapon would catch them. Dolly agreed, promising to spread the rumour through Elsie, who'd tell the village. Miss Marple suggested inviting the suspects to the manor tomorrow for a friendly lunch to discuss the theft, saying the Colonel wanted their help. It was the perfect trap. Her secret weapon thrived on gatherings, where nervous eyes and shaky hands spoke louder than words. She left the muffin tin with Dolly, who hugged her again. "You're a wonder, Jane. If anyone can find that necklace, it's you." On her way home, Miss Marple stopped at the post office to check on Lady Harrington's parcels. Mr. Hodge was sorting letters, his glasses slipping. "Another parcel from her ladyship," he said, chuckling. "Fifth one, and heavy as a brick." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon buzzing. 5 parcels in 5 days. Too many for clothes. "She's quite active," she said, buying a stamp. The parcels could hold the necklace, sent to a buyer in London. She thought of Mrs. Price's gossip about Mr. Sinclair's phone calls to jewellers and Lady Harrington's driver polishing her car, hinting at a quick exit. The trap would push them to act. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple settled into her chair, knitting her shawl. The parlour glowed with afternoon light, the village quiet outside. Her secret weapon was busy, weaving the scratch, the argument, and the parcels into a clear picture. Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington had planned the theft together. His debts and her greed made them partners. Their garden argument, overheard by Mr. Clements, showed a deal gone bad, maybe over money or the necklace itself. The scratch on the latch proved they'd used the garden, and the parcels suggested the necklace was already gone. The trap would make them slip. Mr. Sinclair might call his London contact, or Lady Harrington might pack her bags. Her secret weapon would watch for it. Miss Marple decided to visit the pub to gauge Mr. Sinclair's mood. The Blue Boar was warm and smoky, smelling of ale and pies. Joe, the barman, was wiping glasses. "Miss Marple, you're a regular now," he teased. "Sinclair's upstairs, looking glum." She smiled, her secret weapon hidden. "Just passing. By Joe, is he staying long?" Joe shrugged. "Says he's off to London soon. Business, he claims." Miss Marple nodded, her heart quickening. Business could mean selling the necklace. She left, her secret weapon tying Joe's words to the trap. If Mr. Sinclair heard the rumour, he'd move faster and she'd be ready. At home, Miss Marple baked more muffins, preparing for tomorrow's lunch at the manor. She thought of the village fair, when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The thief's muddy shoes were the scratch, the parcels, and the argument. Her trap would force them to leave more tracks. She'd watch Mr. Sinclair's eyes, Lady Harrington's cool smile, and even Mr. Clements's nervous hands at the lunch. Someone would crack. Her secret weapon counted on it. She remembered Sally, who took a ribbon and wore it proudly, caught by her own boldness. The thief was bold, but scared now, and scared people made mistakes. As evening fell, Miss Marple walked to the church to clear her head. The steeple leaned slightly, like a wise old friend. Inside, it was cool and quiet, smelling of wax and hymn books. Mr. Clements was polishing a candlestick, his hands shaky. "Miss Marple," he said, startled, "is something wrong?" She smiled, her secret weapon gentle. "Just thinking, Mr. Clements. Will you come to the manor's lunch tomorrow? The Colonel needs us." He nodded, his eyes wide. "Of course, if it helps." She noted his fear, another thread for her secret weapon. He knew too much, and the trap might push him to say more. Back home, Miss Marple knitted, the shawl growing under her fingers. The parlour was warm, the lamp casting a soft glow. Her secret weapon was weaving the final pattern. The scratch, the argument, the parcels, the key. Mr. Sinclair's debts, Lady Harrington's greed, and their broken deal were the motive. The trap was set. Dolly's rumour would spread by morning, and the lunch would bring the suspects together. Her secret weapon thrived on such moments, turning polite smiles into confessions. She thought of Tommy's apple theft, how his sticky fingers gave him away. The thief's fingers were stickier, and the trap would catch them. The village settled into night, its cottages glowing like lanterns. Miss Marple's parlour was a haven, her knitting a steady rhythm. The suspects were like actors on a stage, their scripts full of lies. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, would read those scripts line by line. Mr. Sinclair's phone calls, Lady Harrington's parcels, Mr. Clements's fear, they were clues, and the necklace was close. The thief thought they'd won, but Miss Marple was cleverer. Tomorrow the trap would spring, and the truth would slip out as it always did. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Jane Marple, with her gentle smile and sharp mind, never missed a trick. Chapter 9. The Trap Springs. The morning in St. Mary Mead was crisp, with sunlight spilling over the village like warmed syrup. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she wove loops into her pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and warm scones, with a hint of lavender from a bowl on the window-sill. Lace curtains fluttered, letting in golden light that danced on the rug. Outside, the village buzzed. Children scampered to school. "You've been back to you," milkman's cart jingled, and sparrows chirped in the hedges. Miss Marple's mind was sharp, focused on the sapphire necklace stolen from Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her knack for seeing people's true hearts through the small dramas of village life, was humming like a busy bee. The trap she'd set with Dolly Bantry was ready. A rumour about a witness to the theft spread to make the thief panic. Today's lunch at the manor would spring the trap, and her secret weapon would catch the truth in nervous glances and careless words. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. Her cottage was a snug haven, with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew, Raymond, grinning on the mantel, and shelves packed with books and yarn. The theft was a puzzle, and she was close to solving it. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party, with no broken locks or obvious clues. The police were stumped, but Miss Marple's secret weapon saw what they missed. The tiny signs people left behind. Sweaty brows, shaky hands, or quick words. She'd learned it in St. Mary Mead, where every stolen pie or whispered gossip taught her about greed, fear, or love. The thief was driven by one of those, and her trap would make them slip. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, was buried in debt, his sweat a clue when she mentioned the sapphires. Lady Harrington, the jewel-hungry heiress, had sent 5 parcels to London and glanced greedily at Miss Marple's brooch. Mr. Clements, the vicar, had overheard Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington arguing in the garden about a deal gone wrong, his fear a bright thread. The scratch on the French door latch and flattened grass outside pointed to the garden as the thief's path. Her secret weapon wove these clues together, like the village fair when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The motive was clear. Mr. Sinclair needed money. Lady Harrington craved the necklace, and their argument showed a plan that had cracked. The rumour about a witness would push them to act, and today's lunch would reveal who broke first. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, waited by the door with her umbrella. The lunch at the Manor was at noon, and Dolly had invited the key suspects, Mr. Sinclair, Lady Harrington, Mr. Clements, and a few others from the party, like Miss Trent and Peter Bantry, to keep it natural. Miss Marple had packed a tin of scones to share, a perfect excuse to chat and watch. Her secret weapon thrived in such settings, where polite smiles hid guilty hearts. She thought of Tommy, the village boy who stole apples and was caught by his sticky fingers. The thief's fingers were stickier, and her trap would catch them. The village was bright, with sunlight glinting off cottage windows. Miss Marple walked to the Manor, her steps slow but sure. The lanes were lined with late wildflowers, and neighbours waved as she passed. Mrs. Price called from her shop. "Heard about that witness, Miss Marple? The whole village is talking." Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon hidden. "Goodness, news travels fast. We'll see what comes of it." The rumour had spread just as planned, and her trap was set. She thought of Billy, who stole a bicycle and bragged too much, giving himself away. The thief would brag, bolt, or blunder, and her secret weapon would be watching. At the Manor, Elsie opened the door, her eyes wide. "Everyone's in the drawing-room, Miss Marple. Mrs. Bantry's nervous as a cat." Miss Marple patted her arm. "It'll be fine, Elsie." The Manor was grand, its stone walls sturdy and ivy-covered. The drawing-room was where the theft happened, with tall windows, red curtains, and the side table where the velvet case had sat. The French doors, with their scratched latch, opened to the garden, and Miss Marple's secret weapon hummed as she entered. The suspects were there, sipping tea or nibbling sandwiches, their faces a mix of boredom and unease. Dolly greeted her, her voice loud to cover her nerves. "Jane, you're here! Everyone, Miss Marple's helping us sort out this dreadful theft." Mr. Sinclair looked up, his smile tight, a bead of sweat on his brow. Lady Harrington sat stiffly, her diamond earrings glinting, her eyes cold. Mr. Clements clutched a teacup, his hands shaky. Miss Trent and Peter Bantry chatted lightly, but the air was heavy, like a storm waiting to break. Miss Marple sat, her secret weapon scanning every face. The rumour had reached them. She could see it in their eyes. Dolly played her part, dropping the bait. "The Colonel's meeting the police tomorrow," she said, her voice carrying. "We've got a witness who saw someone in the garden the night of the party. It's a big step." Mr. Sinclair's cup rattled, and he coughed to cover it. Lady Harrington's lips twitched, her fingers tightening on her napkin. Mr. Clements paled, staring at his tea. Miss Marple's secret weapon caught it all, like a net-scooping fish. The trap was working. Fear was making them slip. She joined the talk, her voice gentle. "Such a shame about the necklace. Those sapphires were so blue, weren't they, Mr. Sinclair?" He flinched, his laugh forced. "Oh, yes, lovely. I barely noticed, too busy chatting." His eyes darted to Lady Harrington, and Miss Marple's secret weapon sparked. That glance was a clue, tying them together. She turned to Lady Harrington, smiling. You stepped into the garden for air, didn't you? Did you see anything odd?" Lady Harrington's face was a mask, but her voice was sharp. "Nothing at all. It was dark, and I wasn't out long." Her fingers brushed her earrings, and Miss Marple noted the gesture. Greed or nerves? Mr. Clements was next, his fear loud as a bell. "It's troubling, all this," Miss Marple said, offering him a scone. "You heard voices in the garden, didn't you? Might they help the police?" He froze, his cup shaking. I didn't hear much. Just noise, really. I shouldn't have said anything." His eyes flicked to Mr. Sinclair, then away, and Miss Marple's secret weapon glowed. He was scared of what he knew, and it pointed to the argument. She thought of Sally, the village girl who took a ribbon and wore it boldly, caught by her pride. The thief's pride was cracking under the trap's pressure. The lunch went on, with sandwiches and chatter, but the tension grew. Miss Marple watched, her secret weapon sharp. Mr. Sinclair kept wiping his brow, his jokes falling flat. Lady Harrington was too quiet, her cool mask slipping when Dolly mentioned the witness again. Mr. Clements barely ate, his hands twisting his napkin. Miss Trent and Peter Bantry seemed unaware, but the main suspects were unraveling. Miss Marple's trap was perfect. Fear made people careless, and her secret weapon loved carelessness. As dessert was served, apple tart with cream, Mr. Sinclair stood suddenly. "I need some air," he said, his voice tight. "Mind if I step outside?" Dolly nodded, and he headed for the French doors. Miss Marple's heart quickened, her secret weapon alert. The garden was where the theft happened, and his move was no coincidence. She excused herself, saying she'd forgotten her shawl, and followed quietly, her steps soft on the rug. Through the glass doors she saw him pacing by the fountain. Pulling a small notebook from his pocket, he scribbled something, then tore out the page, tucking it into his coat. Miss Marple slipped back inside, her secret weapon buzzing. The notebook was a clue, maybe a note to a buyer or Lady Harrington. She thought of Billy's bicycle theft, how his muddy tracks led to the woods. Mr. Sinclair's tracks were in that notebook, and she'd find them. She rejoined the group, her smile calm, and noticed Lady Harrington watching the doors, her face pale. The trap was closing, and they knew it. After lunch, the guests lingered, but the mood was strained. Miss Marple chatted with Dolly, keeping an eye on Mr. Sinclair. He returned, his face flushed, and avoided Lady Harrington's gaze. Mr. Clements left quickly, muttering about church duties. Miss Marple's secret weapon saw it all. Mr. Sinclair's panic, Lady Harrington's tension, Mr. Clements's fear. She whispered to Dolly, "Keep the rumour going. Say the witness is coming tonight." Dolly nodded, her eyes bright. "You're a genius, Jane." Miss Marple walked home, her mind racing. The village was golden, with children playing and smoke curling from chimneys. She stopped at the post office to buy a stamp, hoping for more on Lady Harrington's parcels. Mr. Hodge was sorting parcels, his glasses foggy. "Her ladyship's driver dropped off another one," he said. "6th this week. Says it's urgent." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon sparking. 6 parcels, too many for innocence. The necklace was likely gone, sent to London, but the trap would catch the thieves before they fled. Back at her cottage, Miss Marple knitted, the shawl growing under her fingers. The parlour glowed with lamplight, the village quiet outside. Her secret weapon was weaving the final pattern. The scratch, the argument, the parcels, the notebook. Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington had stolen the necklace together. His debts and her greed made them partners. Their garden argument, overheard by Mr. Clements, showed a deal gone sour, maybe over splitting the money. The scratch proved they'd used the garden, and the parcels suggested the necklace was in London. Mr. Sinclair's notebook was the last clue, and her secret weapon would use it. Miss Marple planned her next move. She'd asked Dolly to watch Mr. Sinclair's room at the pub. Joe might help for a scone or two. If the notebook held a buyer's name or a plan, it was proof. She'd also tell the police about the parcels, suggesting they check London jewellers. Her secret weapon thrived on such details, turning whispers into shouts. She thought of the village fair, when a lost brooch was found in a child's pocket, taken for fun. The necklace was no game, but the thieves were just as human, tripped by their own fear. As night fell, St. Mary Mead glowed with lamplight, its cottages snug against the dark. Miss Marple's parlour was a haven, her knitting a steady rhythm. The suspects were like mice in a trap, scurrying as the door closed. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, had sprung the trap, and the truth was near. Mr. Sinclair's notebook, Lady Harrington's parcels, Mr. Clements's fear, they were clues, and the necklace was close. The thieves thought they were clever, but Miss Marple was cleverer. Tomorrow she'd follow the notebook's trail, and the truth would slip out, as it always did. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Jane Marple, with her gentle smile and sharp eyes, never missed a clue. Chapter 10. The Truth Revealed. The morning in St. Mary Mead was golden, with sunlight washing over the village like a warm wave. Miss Jane Marple sat in her cosy parlour, her knitting needles clicking as she added soft loops to her pale pink shawl. The cottage smelled of fresh tea and warm scones, with a hint of roses from a vase on the table. Lace curtains fluttered, letting in light that danced on the rug. Outside, the village hummed. Children laughed on their way to school. The milkman's cart jingled and sparrows chirped in the hedges. Miss Marple's mind was sharp, buzzing with the sapphire necklace theft at Colonel Bantry's manor. Her secret weapon, her knack for seeing people's true selves through the small dramas of village life, was ready to strike. The trap she'd set with Dolly Bantry, a rumour about a witness, had pushed Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington to the edge during yesterday's lunch. Today, she'd follow the trail of Mr. Sinclair's notebook and Lady Harrington's parcels to uncover the truth, using her secret weapon to tie every clue into a neat bow. Miss Marple sipped her tea, the cup warm in her hands. Her cottage was a snug haven with a ticking clock, a photo of her nephew Raymond grinning on the mantel, and shelves packed with books and yarn. The theft was a puzzle, and she was moments from solving it. The necklace had vanished from a locked velvet case during a lively dinner party with no broken locks or obvious clues. The police were baffled, but Miss Marple's secret weapons saw what they missed. The tiny signs people left behind, sweaty brows, shaky hands, or careless words. She'd learned it in St. Mary Mead, where every stolen loaf or whispered gossip taught her about greed, fear, or love. The thief was driven by one of those, and her secret weapon would catch them. She thought about her suspects. Mr. Sinclair, the writer, was drowning in debt, his sweat a clue when she mentioned the sapphires. Lady Harrington, the jewel-hungry heiress, had sent 6 parcels to London, and glanced greedily at Miss Marple's brooch. Mr. Clements, the vicar, had overheard their argument in the garden about a deal gone wrong, his fear a bright thread. The scratch on the French door latch and flattened grass outside proved the garden was the thief's path. Mr. Sinclair's notebook, seen yesterday as he scribbled in the garden, was the final clue. Her secret weapon wove these pieces together, like the village fair when a child's muddy shoes led to a lost brooch. The motive was clear. Mr. Sinclair needed money. Lady Harrington craved the necklace, and their broken deal had left them exposed. Today Miss Marple would follow the notebook and parcels to the truth. Miss Marple stood, smoothing her grey skirt and cardigan. Her hat, plain with a small feather, waited by the door with her umbrella. She'd visit the Blue Boar pub to ask Joe about Mr. Sinclair's room, hoping to glimpse the notebook. Then she'd talk to Mr. Hodge at the post office about Lady Harrington's parcels, urging the police to check them. Finally, she'd meet Dolly at the manor to share her findings and plan the final step. Her secret weapon thrived on details, and she'd use them to trap the thieves. She packed a tin of scones for Joe, knowing a treat loosened tongues, and stepped into the bright morning. The village sparkled, with sunlight glinting off cottage windows. Miss Marple walked to the pub, her steps slow but sure. The lanes were lined with wildflowers, and neighbours waved as she passed. At the Blue Boar, the air was warm and smoky, smelling of ale and fresh bread. Joe was behind the bar, polishing glasses. "Miss Marple, you're early today," he said, grinning, "looking for Sinclair." She smiled, her secret weapon hidden. "Just a quick chat, Joe. Is he in? I brought scones." She offered the tin, and Joe's eyes lit up. "You're a saint. He's out. Went to the station muttering about London. Left his room a mess, though." Miss Marple's heart quickened, her secret weapon sparking. "A mess? Poor you, cleaning up. Mind if I take a peek? I'd love to leave him a note about the church fair." Joe hesitated, then shrugged. "Guess it's fine. Just don't touch anything." He led her upstairs to a small room with a rumpled bed, scattered papers, and a suitcase half packed. Miss Marple's eyes scanned the desk, spotting a small notebook, its cover worn. "I'll just leave my note," she said, picking up a pencil. As Joe turned to adjust a curtain, she flipped the notebook open, her secret weapon swift. A torn page was missing, but the next had a name. Mr. Grayson, with a London address, and sapphires $5,000. Her heart leapt, but her face stayed calm. She scribbled a fake note, closed the notebook, and thanked Joe, her secret weapon holding the clue tight. She thought of Tommy, the village boy who stole apples and left sticky fingerprints. Mr. Sinclair's notebook was his fingerprints, linking him to a buyer. The address was proof, and her secret weapon would use it. She walked to the post office, her mind racing. Mr. Hodge was sorting letters, his glasses foggy. "Another parcel from Lady Harrington," he said, chuckling. "7th one, marked urgent. Her driver's in a rush." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon buzzing. "Could you tell the police, Mr. Hodge? Those parcels might be important." He promised to pass it on, and she bought a stamp, her trap tightening. 7 parcels, likely hiding the necklace, sent to Mr. Grayson or another fence. Miss Marple headed to the manor, the village glowing around her. Elsie opened the door, her face pale. "Mrs. Bantry's in the morning room, Miss Marple. She's jumpy about that rumour." Miss Marple patted her arm. "It's almost over, Elsie." The manor was grand, its stone walls sturdy and ivy-covered. Dolly was pacing, her red hair messy. "Jane, the rumour's got everyone talking. Mr. Sinclair's leaving today, and Lady Harrington's car is packed. Did it work?" Miss Marple sat, her secret weapon calm. "It worked, Dolly. I found something in Mr. Sinclair's room, a notebook with a buyer's name and address in London. And Lady Harrington's parcels are suspicious. The police need to check them." Dolly gasped, her eyes wide. "You're a marvel, Jane. So they did it together." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon weaving the final pattern. Mr. Sinclair needed money. Lady Harrington wanted the necklace. They planned it, using the garden, hence the scratch on the latch. Their argument, heard by Mr. Clements, was about splitting the money. The parcels likely hold the necklace, sent to a buyer named Mr. Grayson. She thought of Billy's bicycle theft, how his muddy tracks led to the woods, the notebook, and parcels were the thieves' tracks, and her secret weapon had followed them. Dolly called the police, explaining the parcels and the notebook. Miss Marple suggested they intercept Mr. Sinclair at the station and search Lady Harrington's car before she left. "They're scared," she said. "The rumour pushed them to run, but they'll slip." Dolly hugged her, laughing. "Jane, you're better than a detective." Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon hidden. Her trap had worked. Fear made people careless, and her secret weapon loved carelessness. While waiting for the police, Miss Marple visited Mr. Clements at the church, wanting to ease his fear. The steeple leaned slightly, like a wise old friend. Inside, it was cool and waxy, with hymn books stacked neatly. Mr. Clements was polishing a candlestick, his hands shaky. "Miss Marple," he said, startled. "Is it about the theft?" She smiled, her secret weapon gentle. "It's nearly solved, Mr. Clements. You helped telling me about those voices. The police are handling it now." His face relaxed, his eyes grateful. "Thank God, I was so afraid." She patted his arm, her secret weapon noting his relief. He'd been a key, even if he didn't know it. Back at the manor, the police arrived, led by Inspector Craddock, a young man with sharp eyes. Dolly explained the rumour, and Miss Marple shared the clues. The scratch, the argument, the notebook, and the parcels. Craddock listened, impressed. "You've done our job, Miss Marple. We've got men at the station and Lady Harrington's house. If the necklace is in those parcels, we'll find it." Miss Marple nodded, her secret weapon steady. "They worked together, Inspector. Mr. Sinclair picked the lock. Lady Harrington sent the necklace. Fear made them sloppy." The police left to act, and Miss Marple sat with Dolly, sipping tea. Her secret weapon was still, the puzzle nearly complete. She thought of the village fair, when a lost brooch was found in a child's pocket, taken for fun. The necklace was no game, but the thieves were just as human, tripped by greed and fear. Mr. Sinclair's notebook, Lady Harrington's parcels, Mr. Clements's fear, they were clues, and her secret weapon had tied them together. She knitted, the shawl growing, each stitch a thought. By evening Craddock returned, his face triumphant. "We got them, Miss Marple. Sinclair was at the station, with a ticket to London and a letter to Mr. Grayson in his pocket. Lady Harrington's driver confessed. One parcel had the necklace, hidden in a scarf box. We're searching Grayson's shop now." Dolly cheered, hugging Miss Marple. "Jane, you did it!" Miss Marple smiled, her secret weapon quiet. "People always slip, Dolly. You just have to watch." The village buzzed with the news, and Mrs. Price shouted, "You're a hero, Miss Marple," as she passed the shop. Back home, Miss Marple settled into her chair, the parlour glowing with lamplight. St. Mary Mead was calm, its cottages snug against the night. Her secret weapon, her quiet way of seeing through people, had solved the puzzle. Mr. Sinclair and Lady Harrington thought they were clever, but their greed and fear betrayed them. The necklace would return to Dolly, and the thieves would face justice. Miss Marple knitted, the shawl soft under her fingers, and thought of Tommy's apple theft, how his sticky fingers gave him away. St. Mary Mead was small, but its lessons were big, and Miss Jane Marple, with her gentle smile and sharp eyes, never missed a clue.